Hello everyone. It's been quite a long time. We have completed so far with the topics needed for ACA cloud computing in this time in this playlist. So today we are going to see about the cloud security. So when we think about cloud security, it comes in a parallel view of it doesn't fit into this infrastructure or data intelligence or any kind of applications, but security as a domain, it's quite unique in cloud. So we have the features of security management, which has the managed security service, and then we have application security, which has the WAF, that is the uh, application framework for and then for this CA, that is the certificate authority, and then content moderation, website threat inspector, and then we have the data security, which has the key management system and secure circuit layer, and then we have the network security, which has the anti-DDoS and the cloud firewall. So WAF stands for like web application firewall, and then the server security we have in the security center. So you'll see these things in detail. So when we need to secure the cloud platform, what is the need for it? Normally, when we have a computer, we have some antivirus, or we have a server which may have like a hardware or a software firewall. But when these are like for the on-premise system, but when we migrate all these things to the cloud, when we take all the infrastructure we have on premise to the cloud, we are exposed to more security threats than the on premise system. So, at the customer's point of view, they have the issues of application security, operation security, business security, network security, data and host security. So these are all for the customer point of view. But in the cloud provider's point of view, we have the virtualization security, cloud service security, account security, hardware security, physical security, and cloud platform security. So this is the Alibaba Cloud security architecture. We have the basal cloud platform security, where we get identity and access control and security monitoring operation. So this identity and access control comes under the user account security. So the user account security is like takes the base from this particular platform. And apart from this security monitoring and operation, we have physical security, hardware security, virtualization security, and cloud product security. And then we have the user infrastructure security, which has the virtual machine security, container security, and network security. The container security in specific, it is dealt with the security of Kubernetes, Dockers, and containers used for the cloud native based solutions. And for the user data security, we have data protection, end to end data encryption, and key management. In user application security, we have application protection, application configuration security, and application environmental security. And at the top, we have the user business security, which has the risk control and mitigation, control or content detection, and then real person authentication. So these are the aspects of cloud security. And in the user account security, we have the normal 5 A's we have for the account security. They are the authentication, authorization, account, audit, and application. The same kind of security features we look for the on-premise system. And then in the user security monitoring and operation, we have the threat detection and response, configuration check, log audit, security testing, and security consulting. And then we have the cloud security service family. In that, we have in the account security, which we saw earlier. So in the user account security, I mentioned about the 5 A's. So these 5 A's depend on the RAM and ID as a service. IDAAS stands for ID as a service. So that means we create a security identity as a service. Like, you don't need to create the IDs like in a manual. So it is kind of automated, and it is meant to be more secure. And then we have the operation security. In this operation security, we have the action trial, cloud configuration, bastion host, log service and cloud manager. This is for like monitoring the activities. So this will keep tracking of each and every transaction which happens. And then for the network security, we have the VPC or the security group. Then we have the anti-DDoS and cloud firewall. So then we have host security, which has the security center, and in the data security we have content moderation, key management service, secure socket layer certificate, and data security center. And in the application security we have the web application firewall. So the firewall forms as the base. So this firewall is for the cloud security. So that's why we provide this WAF kind of systems. Firstly, we see about the account security, where we have the RAM or the ID as a service. Alibaba Cloud accounts, normally we have the username and the password. They are referred normally as the master or primary or root accounts. When it comes to the resources, this account can manage all the resources. But in case if you are using this account in a company, you cannot give all the username and passwords to everyone. So what we do is we keep the master or the primary root account, and then this will form as the basic unit for the cloud platform, and then we create some kind of container of resources, and then we have owner of resources. So then we set like the subject of metering or billing, and then we have the permission management as an administrator for the root. So these are all the responsibilities of the master account or the root accounts. So this is how we manage for the Alibaba Cloud accounts. This Alibaba Cloud account, we have the security goal of Alibaba Cloud accounts. We have security boundary for tenants. They protect cloud resources from unauthorized access, and then they use the credentials of passwords, multi-factor authentication, or API access key. So here we have the cloud account, which is the main account. So the employee, someone within the organization or outside the organization, they access this account through some kind of access key. They don't have the user account and password, but they have the access key to enter into the system and access certain services. So we can set the privileges of who can access which services and when we need to access. So this all flexibility is provided by the resource access management or RAM users. And similar to any employee, we can set some application also to access this kind of cloud resources. This is something like the web application, which is having a database, and we access the database using some username and a password. But in some cases we use some kind of APIs. So likewise we create some APIs for the applications, so that that APIs will get into the system and get the access to the data whichever it is possible. And then we use the mobile application. The mobile application also will help to access the system. So the mobile application will use some kind of API or application program interface, and they also kind of use the access key to enter into the system. Next, we have even the inter resources, intra resource kind of authentication. For example, one ECS instance which we have created wants to communicate with another ECS. I mean, it can be from one account to another account. Then we need to have this account access privilege also. So that is also possible. So we provide the access for the users, and then we give for the applications or for some mobile applications or even for Alibaba Cloud service to access the information in it. Now we see this Alibaba Cloud account, the person who is having the username and the password, and then we have the RAM users. So the main root user will have the username and the password, and the others will have the access key that is provided by the RAM or resource access management. And they, in the RAM users, they are provided with access key, whereas the root account they are provided with the username and a password. And the username and password they communicate through a console, whereas the access key they access through the API or the application program interface, and they access to the cloud. And in the Alibaba Cloud account, we have the tenant system. So we have this app or the user or the policies which communicate through the RAM, and that RAM user account, that is the access key, will access all the Alibaba Cloud resources which are permitted. So the resource access management or the RAM has some core features. They are a centralized identity management, they have centralized permission management, unified access control, and a centralized user audit. So these are the core features, and they have like four A's of information security. They are the account, authentication, authorization, and audit. All these four characteristics combine together to form information security. Now we see about the design of resource access management. So we have the cloud account. In that we have multi-level authorization management. We have multiple policies and we set them as various resource groups. And these resource groups are communicated using the contextual aware authorization model, which has the access control. And this access control authorization model is accessed through the user or the application or the cloud product, which we have already discussed earlier. So we normally have this kind of RAM users where we provide multiple users or multiple service providers to access the cloud resources. Now we see the users on how the RAM manages the identities and permissions. We have the principal, that is the user, where an employee or a group of applications, and they form as the resource user group. And then for the action, we have the system policies and the custom policies, where we have the conditions, where we have the source IP or the IP range. So the source IP will provide the access time and decide whether the MFA is authenticated or HTTPS is enabled. So these are the conditions checked by the system, and the resources used are like the instances, whether it can be an ECS instance or an RDS instance or an OSS bucket, whichever the resource. And then the service type, what kind of service we are availing from them, like if we are using some kind of server load balancer instance, what kind of service we are taking in. And then the group of resources which we made already, like the resource allocated for the resource groups. So what kind of resource group we are accessing, those all come under this resource group. Now we have the RAM identity management. We have the users, groups, and then the roles. We have the user as some individual person or some app or some mobile application or even some kind of cloud services which try to access these data. RAM role is a type of RAM identity. When compared with the RAM user, the RAM role is a virtual user without identity credentials and has to be assumed by the trusted Alibaba Cloud account or a Alibaba Cloud service. When assuming a role, the user receives a temporary security token for this RAM role. Then the user can use this security token to access the resource as the role. And then the role types, we have the user role, that is a trusted entity assuming the role in an Alibaba Cloud account. And then the service role, the trusted entity assuming the role is an Alibaba Cloud account service. So the user role will be like an account and the service role will be like a Alibaba Cloud service account. It's like a it's not actually the root account, something different from that. And now we see about the RAM and its governance, like how it is governed. We have the set of users who can access. We have the Alibaba Cloud account. where we have the admin and then the developer and then the financial specialist or the application which access through the resource access management, and then the resource groups have various cloud services like the ECS, server load balancer, or RDS, or like OSS, or in whatever it is. And then we have one account for one or multiple projects. We have the role based access control, which is typical for small and medium sized enterprises with less than 100 employees, and this is focused on resource management and access control. It has a low management cost, a clear big picture, and a flat organization chart. Now we see about the ID as a service. So that is one account service for all the certified application systems. So it has three characteristics. They are anybody, any application, or anywhere. Like a company from A company to D company, they can access through the ID as a service and get access to the public or the private cloud. And also in that cloud, they can access any kind of data. It can be a big data or some third party interface, or it can combine with the IoT applications, and then it can connect even to the mobile applications. So when we think about anybody, it is the maintenance team or the employee or the customer partner or the third party person within the company. And then we have the any application, where we have the internal or external applications, where we have the software as a service, network, mobile application, big data interface, and IoT devices. And in anywhere system, we have like seeming less connection independent of location, either at intranet, mobile application, or home office. So the customer value, we have password free, more safe and more convenient. They are security, compliance, cost and efficiency. So in security technology, we have the updated signature, which has the encryption protocol to ensure maximum security protection. For compliance, we have authority or authorized algorithm. So this is the national authorized security, that is the algorithm and MLPS level 3 and above requirements. And in the management cost, it reduces the cost of staff, management and service, and it minimizes the operation risk. And for efficiency, we have the business growth, which improves the work efficiency of employees and broaden customer access channels via social network and alike. Next, we see about the operation security, where we have the monitoring systems like the log service and the cloud monitor. So we have the action trail, which tracks the operations on the cloud resources. So we have like various cloud services running, and then the performance of those services has to be monitored to check whether the data is processed properly or not, or the storage of data is maintained with the proper backup systems or not. And the cloud configuration, it tracks the change history of cloud configurations. So we have like multiple cloud configurations, and this cloud configurations are tracked with the change or a history of configurations. Next, in the network security, predominantly we use the virtual private cloud or the security group, and it also provides anti-DDoS service, and it has a cloud firewall, which is the web application firewall. And this VPC stands for the virtual private cloud, which we have already discussed in an earlier lesson in this playlist. So we have the virtual private cloud or the security group, which increases the network security. And for the security group, it has a set of firewall rules. The security group rules either allow or deny the traffic. This security group rules include the following information. They are the action or the rule type, which will deal with whether or not to accept a block of traffic. Then we have the port range, where the port or the ports of rules applies, and then we have the protocol, which protocol the rule applies to, and then we have the authorization objects, where the security group ID or the IP address range rule applies to. And then we have the security groups. The security groups are a regional concept. A security group can contain ECS instances in different zones within the same region, but not different regions. And this is the quite different, like we have like ECS instances can be within the same zone or like in multiple zones within the same region, or even the ECS instances can be in multiple zones in multiple regions or whatever it is. And when the ECS instance is created, each ECS instance must belong to at least one security group. It can be from multiple zones, but it has to fall under one security group, and it can belong to even many security groups as well. By default, the ECS instances in the same security group can communicate freely with one another, and the ECS instances in different security groups cannot communicate with each other until there is a rule with the security group which allows it. That is, we have a security group, and that group has some set of rules. If the rules are not set, like it will not allow the ECS instance, if the rule is like that, then it is not supposed to allow that ECS instance to communicate with the other zones. So it needs some set of rules. And the anti-DDoS is like a short form of distributed denial of service. A major objective is that like some attackers will send some kind of request to the server and try to get accommodate all the resource pool, and the users will not be able to get the service from the server. So that is what we call as the distributed DDoS. And this Alibaba Cloud security system provides anti-DDoS based security as well. So this DDoS is currently one of the most powerful, and it is very difficult to defend attacks. So we need some kind of AI based systems which can easily identify, and even it can map like the patterns of this kind of DDoS attacks and block those kind of requests, so that it can provide a quality of service among the network systems. And then we have the SYN Flood example. We have the attacker who is sending the request to the system, like as many number of requests are sent, and the acknowledgement is obtained by the attacker itself. Now it is seen that all the requests are occupied. So then when the visitor sends a request, the connection cannot be processed because already all the connections are being used by the attacker. So this is what we call as the SYN flood attack. So this is one kind of attack in the DDoS system. So what exactly is this anti-DDoS and how it works? So anti-DDoS is a set of techniques, best practices, tools and systems for resisting or mitigating the impact of distributed denial of service. The DDoS attacks on internet facing applications by protecting the target or relay networks. DDoS attacks are a constant threat to businesses and organizations by threatening the service performance or to bring down a website entirely, even for a short time. And secondly, this anti-DDoS belongs to a layer 4 and layer 7 defense in the OSI network model, and it is designed to defend against all types of attacks. This method of attack mitigation is usually part of the suite of tools which together create a holistic defense against a range of attack vectors. Now we see about the highlights of anti-DDoS system which is available. Alibaba Cloud has an anti-DDoS system which is a cloud-based security service to safeguard your data and the applications from the DDoS attacks, and provides increased visibility and control over security measures. So thereby it increases the data protection, it is easy to deploy, and it has an increased visibility with a multi-layered defense system. So this is the process of having Alibaba Cloud Anti-DDoS Premium or Pro architecture. So we have like the premise intrusion detection control, and there we have to set up an anti-DDoS network, and then AliCloud detections intrusion detections control will have like various anti-DDoS origins like It can have a VPC or it can have a cloud network, and in those we have like the cloud native protection that I already mentioned about the Kubernetes and containers and all those things. And these applications will change according to the need, and then they have like latency sensitive business, multiple domains and ports, and it has a permanent static or public IP address. And in the premise intrusion detection, so we have a scenario that we have a high mitigation capacity and with a committed capacity, and then we have a scenario of backend services hosted outside mainland China, that is the regions which are outside of China, which includes Hong Kong as well. And then we have the scenario of 5 tera mitigation capacity, which has a committed capacity as well. So for all these we have like this anti-DDoS origins, where we have the products like server load balancer, elastic IP, network address uh, protocol, and VPN. And then we have like object storage service, server, and many others which are available with Alibaba Cloud network. Now this cloud anti-DDoS is provided from all these regions currently. We have 12 regions which provide 10 terabyte of DDoS traffic clean, and this anti-DDoS premium we use any cast type of network which supports unlimited protection. But still, even if you don't go for the premium one, we have like a free anti-DDoS system, for a certain limit of data. And now we are seeing the anti-DDoS protection architecture. So this protection architecture helps to protect an application by monitoring and subscribing HTTP, TCP or UDP traffic between the application and the internet. It typically protects applications from attacks such as denial of service, UDP flood and HTTP flood, etc. And then we have like AI intelligent engine provides application security protection. 50% of the users and the 100,000 plus websites in the Asia Pacific are currently being managed by this system. And the defense of manage maximum DDoS attack traffic of 1.02 terabyte. It has a protection regions of around 10 regions around the world. So this can be even used for intelligent AI engines as well. So now we are going to see the challenges with the cloud businesses from all around the world. So from public network to internal network, in that case we need to see about how to manage and defend against a malicious public IP addresses. And then from internal network to public network, we need to look on how to detect and block abnormal outbound connections. This is on how to identify the patterns. And then for between the internal networks, we look at on how to detect or access relationships between applications and locate the hosts that are conducting abnormal activities internally. And then we have between the VPCs, we see on how to isolate the applications by region and as well as the zone. So what kind of firewall a cloud will require? We don't need to deploy any hardware or image resources, and the deployment of two firewalls for high availability is not required, and we don't need to modify the routing configuration. It is all done with one click, and comprehensively it will control everything, and it will analyze the network traffic on for the cloud. So this with the applications, and then we see about the threats of network security on the cloud. So we have like malicious flow of information between the networks, or even between the nodes in the network. So that's about the dark side of the system in the internal systems. And now we see about the cloud firewall. A cloud firewall is actually like a it provides like north-south access control, which is a domain name based access control over outbound traffic. We have a full stack intrusion prevention, which is the intrusion prevention system for layer 4 and above. And the isolation within the virtual private cloud, we have the visualization of security groups and the east-west traffic. And the operations audit, we have a reliable and auditable security policies. So that's how we see about the cloud firewall features. And then in the user VPC, we have the web group which are in the cloud firewall, which provides like a east-west traffic control module. So these are in brief about the cloud firewall features. In the detection of intrusion, we have like to manage public IP addresses. It monitors the outbound connections. It analyzes the traffic to the internet, and then it visualizes the traffic within the security groups. In the prevention phase, it has the control over the traffic from internet to your application. This is like the north-south traffic. It provides isolation within the VPCs, and it provides security policies based on domain names, applications, and regions. It supports the monitoring mode and the number of hits. And in the behavior tracking, we have the traffic logs, security logs, and the firewall operation logs. And in the real-time intrusion prevention, we have like the intrusion prevention system. It synchronizes the threat intelligence to defend against the threats and intrusions and the virtual patches. So then we have the comparison between the various versions of cloud firewall. The premium one will provide an advanced firewall capability. It supports dedicated firewall instance and security group centralized visualization and multi-UID traffic control. In enterprise system, we have advanced firewall capability as well. It provides a cross VPC or east-west control, and the security group is like a centralized management, and the breach awareness with the security center is available. This advanced is like a primitive one, but it's not like a very primitive, but it's like it has a basic firewall capability, and it provides like a north south flow control, and the network IPS is for north south traffic. So next week we'll look on to the cloud native, Kubernetes, and DevOps.